Back again with another video. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about oiling out. Now this doesn't apply to acrylic paints. This is only for oil paints. But it's important that you do this for many different reasons, which I'm going to cover, and I'm actually going to show you guys how I go about oiling out my paintings. Now when you hear artists talk about oiling out, what that means is applying oil to the areas to where the paint has sunken in and just making everything a nice even coat and making sure that everything is saturated. I'm going to give you guys a close-up, but on this painting here, you can see that some parts are matte and some parts are glossy. That just means that the matte part is where the paint has sunken more into the surface. Actually, I have gesso under the paint. And the glossy part is where it has settled correctly on top. So with oiling out, it's just making sure that the oil is covering everything in its completion. All right, so supplies. First thing first, you're gonna need some oil. I use Stand oil. You could use linseed oil. That also works fine. You don't want to use liquid. Do not use liquid. Liquid is not for oiling out. Use some linseed oil, use some Stand oil. Next, we got some mineral spirits. I'm using Gamsol. You can also use turpentine or any type of mineral spirits. Then I got a glass jar. Now this is from some baby food, but you want to get something with a lid, and I'll explain to you why. Next, I got a measuring spoon. Doesn't really matter what size you use. I basically use the measuring spoon to make sure I have even ratios. So just in case I run out of my mix and I need to mix it again, I know exactly what to do, and it's gonna be 100% accurate as before. And the last two items, this is industrial paper towel, or you wanna get something that's a lint-free type of paper towel or cloth or something, and a paintbrush. This is just an old paintbrush. I just use it for oiling out. I don't paint with it anymore. Oh yeah, wait, one more thing. Make sure you get some gloves. You're gonna want to use some gloves for this. You do not want the mineral spirits or the oil all over your hands. Keep it clean. Now, one thing to note, which I mentioned, is that this surface was actually prepared with gesso. Now, if you're using an oil ground, it might react a little bit different and you might not necessarily have this problem. That's based on what I heard, and also because the oil ground has oil in it. So you're not going to get as much sunken in areas. Now let's take a close-up and I can show you exactly what I mean. Now when we do our close-up, we can see that this area here has settled directly on top of the surface, whereas the areas beside it has sunken in, and we could see that throughout the painting, right? Actually, I already did oil out the lettering, and that's where you can see the drip there. So just from that one drip, you can see the difference already. All right, so let me show you guys how we're gonna start off. What we're gonna do is make sure you get your jar there, and I'm gonna take 2 parts of Stand oil. So just 2 scoops. So you know what, I'm gonna do 3. So there's our second. I'm just going to do 1 more. All right, so now that we have 3 parts of that, what we're actually going to do next is add our mineral spirits to the mix. Now this is why I said it's important that you use a measuring spoon. It's because you want to know the exact ratio every time. You don't want to be doing any guesswork and pouring it straight into the jars and having some areas more saturated than others, because then you're just initially in the same boat. And now when it dries, you can run into things like cracking and whatnot. So now with the mineral spirits, we're just going to do 1 part. We're going to get that right in there. So even with oiling out right now, there's still more oil than there is thinner, which is what you want. You want the least amount as thinner as possible, but you want to make sure there's just enough in there to get the oil going along the surface. Now this is where I said it's important to have a jar with a lid that you can tighten, because now that we tighten it, we're just going to shake it. Usually I shake it for about 2 or 3 minutes, but for the sake of this video, I'm not going to do it that long. Now, one thing to note, when you're oiling out your paintings, don't do what I'm doing and have it hung up on the wall. It's actually supposed to be flat on the table or on the ground or something. But let's go ahead and oil out that area that I pointed out. So when you put the oil on your brush, you don't want too much, right? Because you don't want to put too much on the surface of the painting. Too much oil, that is. So we're just going to put a decent amount. And we're just going to go one stroke across. Now for a painting this size, I actually should be using a bigger brush, but then that would call for a bigger jar, right? So we're just going to go along here with this demonstration. So if we look, we can already tell the difference between the areas. And as you see where it's oiled out, everything is nice and even. And then on the other parts where it's not, you can still see the gloss and the matte. All right, now that your painting is all oiled out, what you actually want to do is take a couple of strips of the paper towel or the cloth, and you just want to wipe off some of the excess oil. Now, this is also going to help it dry faster too. So as you can see there, we just got some of the excess oil off of it. And these are the results. It looks very good. As we can see, everything is nice and even now. Nothing is sunken in. And it even brought back some of the colors that were lost. So there you have it, guys. Oiling out made easy. One of the best ways to improve your oil painting when it's completed and when it's dry to the touch. Make sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on Instagram, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.